interruption, or what we can call interference, by definition, the greatest enemy of concentration. It is also the great danger of creativity nowadays. Understanding this is especially important in the context of engineering education. We have made the mistake to understand engineering in a very narrow way as analytical in nature, right? A common misconception is that engineering is just applied math and applied sciences. So when we think of engineering education, we think in terms of factors such as productivity, accuracy, speed, optimality, correctness. We believe this is what engineers students should learn. However, if we really want engineering professionals that are ready for the fast-changing technological environment, we need to understand engineering education in a broader sense. We need to integrate factors such as generating alternatives, integrating multidisciplinary ideas, seeing multiple perspectives or possibilities. These two types of human intellect abilities are referred to as convergent and divergent thinking. But we can use the word creativity to refer to divergent thinking. And so a more realistic and modern understanding of engineering and engineering education that I want to share with you today should view it as a process of creative problem solving, integrating convergent and divergent thinking. So let's go back and remember the Joyce's phrase from the beginning of the talk. The great danger right now of creativity is being interrupted. What do we mean by concentration? If we define concentration as the ability to focus all our attention and thought on the current activity or task, that is exactly what the phrase is referring to, right? And here I want you to consider the following question. Do you think we need concentration in order to learn? Do we need concentration in order to be creative? Well,
yes,
not
I think that because it helps our brain to concentrate.
correct. Thank you, Jorge. And not only do we need our attention to learn and to be creative, I would argue we also need our attention and our creativity to be happy and fulfilled in life and to be motivated. Before I continue with the talk, I want to make an invitation. I have an invitation for you. I would like to invite you to try to notice and recognize when you get distracted by anything during my presentation. So if you're here attending this talk, it is very likely that you have an interest in something about it. Either you want to learn about engineering education, or you want to learn about mindfulness, or maybe you just want to practice your English skills. So if you're here, you want to pay attention, right? Just see if you can notice when you get distracted by anything at any moment. It can be noises around you. It can be something on your phone. Maybe someone sends you a message, or you remember something else that you need to check. Or maybe you just get bored and you decide to pay attention to something else. Just try to be aware of that. Try to notice when that happens, okay? Now, before the COVID-19 pandemic, alarming number of engineering students were reporting high levels of stress, anxiety, and depression in Colombia, United States, and other countries. Research indicates that stress and anxiety negatively impact student experience, academic performance, and retention. Now, recent evidence shows that alarming mental health crisis in engineering education, and that students may associate studying engineering with poor mental health. Now, the sudden onset of the COVID-19 pandemic introduced countless additional stressors for students and for professors also. From quick moves to online learning, news anxiety, financial hardship, all these are additional stressors for students. I currently teach operations research, optimization, and production planning to industrial engineering students in their 3rd and 4th year of their program. And after almost a year since we started lockdown and online classes at the beginning of this semester, during the first online meeting, I asked all my students this question. Considering the quality of your education as an engineer, what has been the most difficult thing about virtual classes? Out of the 108 students that were inquired, I received a total of 140 responses, and I was able to categorize them in 7 different main topics. The first one, lack of interaction with classmates and professors. So responses like, we are losing the opportunity to relate to others, meeting people, learning to speak in public. Life is about relating to others. Fatigue or tiredness. Responses like, being all day in front of a computer causes back pain, eye fatigue. Household and family dynamics. So responses like family problems, pets, preparing food, cleaning the house, while studying and attending classes. Perceived increase in academic workload. So responses like, it has been doubled the workload compared to what we were used to before the pandemic. Missing hands-on practice. So responses like, we are missing the opportunity to apply and practice what we learn, to visit different production processes and organizations. And remember, here I specifically asked them to consider the quality of the education they were getting. And the most common response was the inability to concentrate. The level of distractions is very high. It requires a greater effort to be able to concentrate. I get distracted by my phone all the time. I don't pay much attention. I get distracted by doing several things at the same time. This is a graph showing the data where more than 32% of students mentioned concentration as the most difficult thing about virtual classes. But if concentration is so important for learning and creativity, why is it so hard for students to concentrate nowadays? Well, there has never been more interference. And here we need to consider that interference can obviously be generated externally by sensory stimuli. So for example, when we are distracted by loud sounds in the environment, or our pets wanting to play with us while we try to concentrate. It can also be caused by external interruptions that you actually need and decide to engage in. So for example, when you actually need to be doing something else, like caring for a child or cooking or cleaning. But interference can also be generated internally. And here we also find distraction and interruption. Internal distraction is also known as mind wandering. It is that common experience in which attention becomes disengaged from the activity that we're doing and gets lost in thought. Those periods where our minds just start thinking about the past, the future, about all the things we need to do, about our worries, our desires. Internal interruption refers to what we also know as multitasking, which is that conscious or unconscious attempt to simultaneously do multiple things at the same time. I'm sure this has happened to you. You're in a class or in an important meeting, and then you just decide to check your email or WhatsApp in your phone right in the middle of the call, not realizing that you are essentially losing all the quality of your attention to the actual thing that you do want and need to pay attention. And we do this all the time, and we do this everywhere. And we can obviously multitask in certain cases. You can listen to radio or a podcast and successfully drive a car, for example. But when we are engaged in a task that requires all our linguistic cognition, multitasking only degrades our performance. Does any of this sound familiar to you during this talk? Have you noticed any of these distractions so far during this talk? I would like to get some of your answers, either in the chat or maybe you can just be open and share with your voice.
It sounds like our everyday.
It sounds like our everyday, right?
Yes, exactly. And today I was taking notes, and I'm for the first time I'm paying full attention to somebody. Believe me, full attention. Thank
Okay.
you. And I have been distracted by my granddaughters, who seems
Right.
to be willing to wake up. I have been distracted by the noise of the cars passing by, and so far.
Right. Thank you very much for sharing. And this is the classroom now. This is the engineering classroom. That is what students are, that is the context where students are attending classes. Anyone else wants to share something specific that they were distracted
Teacher,
by?
I'm sorry, I'm back. I was having
Welcome.
some connection issues.
Welcome back. That is just another interference. Internet problems. That was the 7 category. In those 7 categories that I was sharing, internet connection problems, that was another main problem for students.
Yes, I think that sometimes you may get distracted by different factors and you need to
Right,
pay attention, but it is really
right.
important in order to get concentrated.
That's true. Thanks for being here. Thank you.
Anytime.
So, what can we do about it? What can we do about interruption, like with the sound right now that we're hearing? Andres, I think, I know. Okay. I think there's a couple of microphones that are on and they're creating a lot of interference. Okay, so what can we do about it? What do we do about interruption? So we have all these sources of interruption and interference. We have external, internal, we have external distractions and interruptions. We have internal distractions and interruptions. And that is the online engineering context of education that we're living in. What to do with interruption? Do we ban or prohibit the use of cell phones during online classes? It doesn't really make any sense. We should be innovating in our teaching strategies, methods, and tools to make classes more engaging and interesting. And we professors and universities are working really hard in this area. Students can also do their best to find quiet environments so they can focus better. But we know this is not the case for everyone. In fact, this is not the case for most students in Colombia. But there is a fourth solution to this problem. And that solution involves training in attention, or what we call attention training. So just as a ballerina trains to perform, or an athlete trains to get stronger, it is possible to train our capacity to pay attention. more than concentration, what is really at the core of the problem here is attention, or what is known in scientific literature as attention regulation. Attention, I would argue, is the most valuable resource we have, not only for education, but in our lives in general. Paying attention to what we are doing in every moment is the most essential source of purpose and joy. It is the only thing that guarantees understanding and retention. We can only enjoy, remember, and understand what we pay attention to. We can only learn and be creative if we pay attention. The more significant experiences in our lives are those that were able to capture all our attention. The most significant experiences in our lives are those that are able to capture all our attention. Now, with all these different types of interference, external and internal, we are losing more and more the ability to focus our attention on what really matters. Think of what the internet and social media is doing to our brains. What do all these news and social media platforms want from you? Your attention. That is their core target. And here is where mindfulness comes along. I'm sure many of you have heard the concept or are familiar with it. The simplest and most popular definition of mindfulness available in the scientific literature was given by John Kabat-Zinn in 1990. And it refers to it as a state of non-judgmental moment-to-moment awareness. Kabat-Zinn is a professor of medicine and the creator of the Stress Reduction Clinic and the Center for Mindfulness in Medicine, Healthcare, and Society at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. Mindfulness is basically a greater degree of attention to present moment experience without aversion or attachment. In recent years, mindfulness has received a lot of attention across academia, science, and popular discourse. It has been studied across various disciplines such as psychology, psychiatry, neuroscience, healthcare, arts, and others. Most of the mindfulness research has examined its potential to regulate stress and improve cognitive, emotional, and interpersonal functioning. Implementing mindfulness into academia can improve student mental health by reducing the perception of stress, lowering anxiety, and improving mood and sleep. First-year students participating in a mindfulness course showed better adjustment to university than peers who did not participate. This suggests a pathway to improve retention. Mindfulness has been shown to support academic performance with studies showing strong relation with lower test anxiety, improved mathematical problem solving, and better calculus exams. Additionally, scholars have suggested that the effects of mindfulness are also related to other skills and abilities, such as divergent thinking and creativity. It has been shown that if you do only 10 minutes of mindfulness practice every day, something remarkable starts to happen in your ability to regulate attention. Mindfulness can help us to better manage all external interference but it can mostly help us to notice and correct for internal interference, mind wandering and multitasking. So some of you may be wondering how we practice inattention. What is the actual practice? What is the actual mindfulness practice? Well, to begin, it is a very simple practice. It's not easy, but it's very simple. You begin by closing your eyes and feeling your breath and body as closely as possible. Very soon after that, your attention will wander to something else. You will get distracted either by external or internal interference. Whenever you notice that you have been distracted, you redirect or reorient attention to the breath and you begin again. And you do this as many times as it is necessary. That is the practice. That is how you train to regulate your attention. To notice when you're distracted by external or internal interference, reorient your attention, and you just begin again. That is the practice. Should we do it together? Are you interested in the practice? We can try it for 7 minutes. So if you're doing something else, if you're multitasking in your phone, see if you can pause and just leave your phone aside and everything else aside for only 7 minutes to just pay attention. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Great. So just begin by sitting a little straighter than you were. You want to be very comfortable, but not too comfortable that you fall asleep. It is a practice in attention, so find a posture that inspires alertness. And close your eyes softly. And gradually start to feel the sensations of sitting. Feelings of pressure in your back or legs. Feel your arms at your sides. And now gradually pay attention to the process of breathing. Notice where in your body you feel the breath more easily. It can be at the tip of the nose or in the movement of the chest or abdomen. Just feel all the raw sensations associated with the breath. From the beginning of the inhalation, through the pause between breaths, and follow the breath, follow the exhalation to the end. Simply cover the breath with your attention. There's no need to control the breath. Just let it flow naturally. And every time your mind wanders to a thought, gently return it to the breath or to the sensations of your body, to the feeling of your back against the chair or the cushion, to the feelings of pressure in your legs. As you focus on the process of breathing, you will also perceive sounds around you and sensations in your body and emotions, just the full flow of your experience. Simply observe all that as you experience it, and then return to the breath. See if you can notice the next breath from the moment it arises for its full duration until the end. Begin again in this moment, noticing the next inhalation and the pause between breaths and the next exhalation. Relax the muscles of your face. Relax the muscles of your jaw, of your shoulders. And the moment you notice a thought present in the mind, notice it. It can be an image, it can be some language. Reconnect with the breath and begin again. Now, it doesn't matter how long you have been lost in thought. Just notice it in this instant. Come back to the feeling of breathing and to the raw sensations of your body, temperature, pressure, tension. This is the last minute. So really try to focus on the breath and on sensations for 1 minute. And you can slowly open your eyes and just take a moment to notice how you feel right now. Do you feel relaxed or peaceful? Was it hard for you and maybe you feel uncomfortable? So either if you feel relaxed or peaceful, or if it was hard for you and you feel uncomfortable, it doesn't really matter. Contrary to what people think, mindfulness does not have the purpose to make you feel better or more relaxed. It doesn't even have the purpose of reducing stress. All mindfulness is a training in attention. It is a training for noticing when we are distracted, gathering attention, and directing it to the object we choose, which in this case it was the breath and the body. So from the beginning of the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, I have been integrating the practice into my engineering courses. I have been practicing with my students. I have been guiding optional mindfulness sessions ranging between 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of every synchronous class. So right at the beginning of the class, I invite students for the practice, and I tell those who are not interested to just wait for the rest. I always leave the camera on so they can see me and hear my voice while I practice with them. Offering the practice at the beginning of the class helps to create a more intentional environment and allows students and myself to feel more engaged for the class. Before and after some of the sessions, I also share theory and reflection about the mindfulness practice. This helps students to understand better what they're doing and why they're doing it. And lately, for those classes that can be more challenging for students due to the complexity of the topic or to the amount of information, I have also offered short sessions from 2 to 3 minutes right in the middle of the class. So whenever I feel that they can use a break, I offer an exercise of up to 3 minutes in the middle of the class. Again, these moments are optional. Students can very well use them to go to the washroom or to do anything else. Additionally, if they want to practice at any other point during their days outside the class, I refer them to a website and a podcast where I publicly share guided sessions every week, and they can use them to practice anytime. I have been sharing 3 different types of practices. Basic mindfulness, which is the one we just did. Basic awareness of the breath and the body. Open awareness or open monitoring, where we train in keeping a more open attention, remaining aware of everything and anything that is happening. And also the body scan technique, which involves paying attention strategically to different parts of the body and bodily sensations in a gradual sequential from feet to head. Students' participation in the sessions has been around 61%. That means that on average, out of all students that come to the class, 61% opt in and do the session every class. And now I want to share with you some of the comments that I have received from my students. So what do students say about this practice? These are my engineering students, right? The ones that I'm practicing with since even before the pandemic, but mostly during the pandemic. At the beginning of every class, I arrive feeling busy and stressed. This is why it is difficult for me to concentrate through the class. The mindfulness exercise allows me to start with much more concentration and disposition. I have felt more calm and aware of what I'm doing during the class. Unlike other classes that only focus on the subject without caring about the environment in which we live in daily. It becomes more enjoyable and less tedious to continue with the class. They should do this type of exercise and practices more consistently in all classes. I feel more concentrated. I focus on what I have to pay attention to. I have been able to leave my cell phone aside a lot, despite having it next to me. And that was something very difficult for me. It is possible to be more willing and attentive in class after the meditation. I suffer from diagnosed depression, and this has also worked for me to treat my depression. I have always been very anxious, which generates a lot of distraction for me. This practice helps me be calmer, lower my anxiety levels, and thus be able to pay more attention. Starting the class, knowing that I will have a space for me to deal with any stress, helps me remain calm and have much more concentration. I have also improved academically. So these are just few comments that I have received from my students. To finish, I would like to reflect on how I have felt sharing the mindfulness practice with my engineering students. First of all, I feel it has fostered a better and more empathetic interaction with my students. In a context that is very impersonal now, I think that's crucial, especially due to the previously mentioned prevalence of stress, anxiety, and mental health in engineering students. It has been an opportunity to inspire students to prioritize their wellness and mental health during these complex times. I plan to continue practicing with all my students, even if and when we go back to the campus. I am currently working alongside an engineering student on the proposal of an elective course on mindfulness for divergent thinking and sustainable thinking for engineers. This is an ongoing trend internationally, not only in universities, but also in schools and homes. So I trust this is just the beginning of the integration of these practices into education. I have been a daily practitioner of mindfulness myself for the last 5 or more than 5 years, and I know the potential this practice has to radically change the way we use our attention, which, remember, it is our most valuable resource, not only in academia, but in our personal and professional lives. And I want to leave you with my very personal take on mindfulness. I view mindfulness as an ability, as a practice, and as an attitude towards life. As an ability, it implies the possibility to regulate attention. It is the capacity to notice distraction, recover attention, and guide it to what really matters. As a practice, it requires the daily habit of meditation. And as an attitude, it constitutes a state of equanimity and openness that is essential for empathy, creativity, concentration, and serenity. Thanks for your attention. We open now to questions or comments from the assistants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andres, for
Thank you,
such
Maria.
a wonderful talk. It is a really, really interesting approach to education and to engineering because it is important that you see students as human beings first and then engineers, right? I think this is a great value of your proposal. Thank you very much, and let's see if our audience have any questions to Andres. I would like to have the link to the podcasts. Maybe you can share it in the chat.
Yeah, in the yes, I can share it, of
Yes,
course.
so we can have it here.
I started a website or a podcast or I don't know, it has a YouTube channel. You can listen it to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and on the website. The name of the initiative is Todomente. I'll share it in the chat if I can find it.
It's right there in the screen too.
Todomente. Just visit todomente.org. Todomente.
Okay.
.org, and there you can find a link to all the channels. So to the YouTube channel, to the podcast, and there you can find also guided sessions. So I'm sharing guided sessions every week, like 2 or 1 a week on average. And students can use them anytime to sleep, in the morning, just anytime outside the class.
Okay.
Thank you very much, teacher. I feel really
Okay.
relaxed and much better now. I know mindfulness is a training in attention, and this is for noticing when we are distracted. So I'm going to follow your instructions.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay, we
Great.
have Adriana. Adriana Rosso has a question. Adriana,
Yeah,
please.
thank you.
Or a
First
comment.
of all, yes, can you hear me, right? Okay,
Yes.
Professor
Yes.
Acevedo, I would like to thank you, especially for that warning at the beginning of your talk, because I stopped doing other things I planned to do while you were lecturing, right? I've got a question. Do you know any side effects or any negative impact of mindfulness?
Yes. For a practice of 10 minutes daily, there's not much negative associations found in the literature. However, you can really go deep in this practice, right? This practice, even though at the beginning it's a training in attention and it allows you to be more focused in the moment, even after a week of 10 minutes daily, you start noticing the changes. But you can go very deep and you can start meditating or practicing for hours and hours, and it becomes a spiritual practice. It becomes a practice that you integrate in the rest of your life and in the rest of your day. It reduces it just makes you feel happier and more empathetic. So when you go deep in the practice and you start practices for many hours, if you have tendencies for depression or if you have tendencies um, for schizophrenia, for instance, some people, this is very rare, but some people can at the beginning feel more stressed. Why? Because now they're noticing how chaotic their minds are, right? But this is actually progress, because in order to be able to regulate your attention and your thoughts in a way, you need to notice first. You need to become aware of how much distraction and chaos there is in your mind. So if you do have a lot of chaos, it can be at the beginning, if you train for longer periods, it can be a little difficult, right? But with time and with practice, it becomes easier, and then you start seeing the results. Now, some people go so deep that they go into silent meditation retreats, right? So you can do a 10-day meditation retreat where you meditate or you practice for up to 14 hours a day. There, they have psychologists and psychiatrists working along the practitioners because it can bring a lot of trauma and complications, right? Emotionally. But again, this practice of 10 minutes, 5, 10, 20 minutes daily at home, it is very unlikely that you will find any other negative side effects. Again, at the beginning, it can feel more, you can notice that you are more distracted than before during the meditation, but that's why you're noticing it, and that's progress. And then you start concentrating more and more. I think that is what I know about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Let's see, Andres Felipe, you have a
Teacher,
question or a comment? Mhm.
yes, yes, this question is related with how will I know if mindfulness is working, for example, in my case?
Right. The best way to know that the practice is working is by noticing your experience outside the practice, right? So we do need to practice formally. We do need to sit and to count the time and to pay attention for it to work. But the purpose of it is to notice the benefits outside the meditation when we are doing anything else. So for example, at the beginning of my practice, when I started, I used to break a lot of glasses. So any water glass or wine glass, I used to just break it very frequently, like once every week or every 2 weeks. I was distracted. I wasn't paying attention to the moment when I was drinking the water or having the wine. And within not only did I break them, but when I did break them, I felt anger. I really regret it. And I was violent sometimes about it. I was like, why did I break this glass? 2 weeks after starting the meditation, I broke another glass. But this time, first, I didn't react so negatively, so violently. I noticed that I broke it and I understood. I was able to notice why I broke it. I wasn't paying attention. I got distracted with something else and I wasn't paying attention to the glass. That's why I broke it. So you start noticing in your everyday life when you have that urge to go and pick up your phone. And then you have a moment of, why am I picking my phone? Am I just bored and that's why I'm going to my phone? Do I need this right now? Is this convenient for me? And then you have the control, you have the power now to just say, no, I'm going to put it away and I'm not going to look at it. So it's an additional level of choosing what to do with your attention. Am I paying,
Yes, I understand.
do I pay attention here or do I continue distracted by anything that comes in
You
my
can
screen?
you can also measure, for example, what is happening. For example, if you, in my case, I break my phone a lot. So sometimes I can leave my phone plugged to something. I can drop my phone. I
Right.
can maybe have different inconveniences, but at the end, I know that mindfulness is going to help me out a lot in
Right.
this case to maybe to avoid these problems I'm just mentioning about, for
Just
example, what is going on.
just notice after a week or two, you will have an additional level of, or at least 1 second or 2 seconds to decide, is this something I should do or not? And then you act on it. If you're distracted, completely distracted, you're not noticing those moments, right? So that's how you integrate it to your life at the beginning, right? At the beginning, to notice those positive effects.
Okay,
Thanks.
we have two more questions here in this moment. Nancy and then Maria Jimena, right?
Okay, it's my sound okay?
Yes.
Yes, we
All
can hear
right.
you.
Okay, so this is more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
And it's about, well, there's this common misconception over the past decades, I guess probably longer than that, that a person that's good at multitasking, if there's such thing of being good at multitasking, it's a very efficient worker. But as we, as we learn further, as we search further, or as we delve into mindfulness, right, through webinars and videos and literature, we realize that the brain of a multitasker is actually the one that has the least capacity to focus.
Right.
Which is, I mean, it's it's hard to imagine, since we have been
Right.
bombarded with all these ideas of, okay, yeah, you have to multitask in order to be efficient.
Right. You're right. But it is actually easy to understand. I want to show you something. In engineering, we have something called parallel computing. parallel computing. So it's when you use the computer to simultaneously work on different tasks. Okay, so we have task 1, task 2, and task 3. The computer can use the same level of performance for the 3 different tasks. So if the computer has a level of performance of, to put it in a simple language, 10, the computer can use 10 here, 10 here, and 10 here. That is multitasking, right? You can do multiple tasks at the same time with the same level of performance. We humans, if we have 10 for our ability to pay attention and we multitask, we are distributing our performing through the different tasks. So we have 5 here, and then we have 2.5 here and 2.5 here, right? So we are diminishing the level of engagement and attention to the main task. We are bringing some of that awareness and some of that attention to other tasks, but we're functioning in a much lower level in all those tasks, right? And the problem comes when one of those tasks captures your attention completely. So for instance, let's say a situation where we can easily multitask. We're driving a car and we're listening to a podcast or to a radio show. Because we drive so naturally, so automatically, because we internalize the driving ability, we are driving and we can be really focused on the podcast. We can be really paying attention to the podcast. But that is actually why when something happens in front of us, we are not completely there to manage the situation, right? So accidents can a lot more easily happen because our true attention is in the podcast. So whenever that happens, whenever a dangerous situation comes along in your driving, you need time and energy to gather your attention from the radio show or from the podcast and direct it to whatever it really matters, to whatever it needs to be. That is why even with situations where we think we can multitask, it is completely under, it is diminishing our performance, right? In every task. I think that speaks to your comment.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, hello everyone.
María Jimena.
Thank you very much. Andres, I just want to say thank you very much. It has been a very important meeting for all of us. Now I think that our commitment is to practice mindfulness with our students and with ourselves. Right. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria Jimena. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your comment. And I know you really understand the importance of this practice, especially in engineering. I know you understand it.
Yes, I know that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, is there any other question or comment before we leave?
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Martica.
Andres, and Monica, thank you very much for giving all of us this opportunity to devote 1 hour and 1 minute of our time to ourselves, because that is what it is in the end, ourselves. Okay, thank you. It has been very enriching. And please, if you pretend or if you think about making your research project a little bit wider to involve more people or to give it a little bit of a twist or something, count on me. Thank you.
Okay, I will, yes. We have started with engineering education because I teach in engineering, but but I trust that this integration is going to be in all disciplines. We need it in all disciplines, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much again. Yes, any other comment?
I just like to thank Andres for the talk. Very interesting. I have another meeting right now. I had to leave. Otherwise, I'm gonna be multitasking, and it's not convenient.
Right.
Thank you very much. Very encouraging.
Thanks for being
Very
here.
good.
Thanks for being here.
I appreciate it.
Okay. So thank you very much to Andres for it has been really enriching for all of us in many different aspects. And
Thank you, Monica.
we'll keep in contact, no, to about this topic of mindfulness in the classroom. We can also do it in the language classroom, right?
Sure.
Which is
Whenever
our area.
I'm open to everything.
Hi,
Thank you
Monica.
very much.
Would that be possible to share the link to the podcast or the website so we can all check it out?
Yeah, the one that Andres shared.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
in the chat.
we have it in the chat.
Where I can see the chat. I
Yes,
see the chat.
It's todo mente. Just one
todo
word.
mente.
Todo mente. Just one word. Todo mente.
I'm writing it again.
Okay.
That's it, no, Andres? Todomente.org? O-R-G?
Right. Todomente.org.
Yes.
That website, you find the link to the different channels, and you also find sessions there in the website. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Orlando. Thanks for being here too. I'm reading your comment right now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to all the audience, to the UPV professors and students and external invited people to this conference. And see you in another keynote speech session in 3 weeks. Thank you very much, Andres. Have a very
Thanks,
good day.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Way to go, Andre Felipe.
Yes. Thumbs up.